Right, 8 January 2024, and today I've got a number of important stories that I need to cover, and this is going to be very, very detailed. I'm going to give you information here about things that are happening in our country, the reason why things are happening, and where we are probably going. It's going to be very, very tricky in 2024. This year is going to be one of the most difficult years for our country because everything is falling apart. So when I'm saying everything is falling apart, I mean the whole country is going to feel the pain, the big, big pain that is coming. Starting with the foreign exchange rate, which has crashed by 100% since the beginning of this month. So from December to now, the exchange rate of Zimbabwe has crept up from around 7,000 to around 14,000. That is how bad the situation is currently. And then we obviously have to deal with the situation at Penalonga, which is at Redwing mine. That mine disaster is a reflection of what is happening around ED. I explained to you that ED, his focus is on the primary industries. That is why Zimbabwe is not doing well. He does not understand how to focus on the secondary industry, manufacturing, tertiary industries, banking, and tourism. So ED is not capable of thinking in those terms. So everything that he does is related to mining, farming, kukorokoza. Those are the kind of things that ED is doing, and nothing is moving. So let's start with that story. Then I'm going to go to the tweets by CCC President Nelson Chamisa, and surprisingly, ED also tweeted, and we're going to look at all those things that has happened. But I want to start today with ED's visit to Manicaland, and that is part of his tweets. ED traveled to Manicaland, and this is the same region where there's a collapse, a mining collapse. About 16 miners were left trapped on the ground. 11 miners escaped on the first day, as I explained to you. The rescue mission was undertaken by 3 parties. And now I want to explain to you how this connects to Scott Sakwanya, Kudata Gurei, Idi Mnangagwa, and the twins, the twins of Mnangagwa. So this whole thing is connected to ED through those parties that I have explained to you. And ED was getting closer and closer. Yesterday, he went to Nyanga, and the reason is he was only 120 kilometers away from the mining site. The reason why he went there is the people around ED were expecting the West, and they were just getting ready to actually announce that these guys were underground were not going to come out. The guys who were underground were not rescued. So don't get this wrong. I've talked to them, some of the guys are in hospital now, and I know that they were not rescued. What happened is these guys crawled for 4 days through cracks in the mine, and then when they got to the top, 4 of them were able to move up. So those 4 were able to move up, but the rest of them were not able to move up. And this is what caused the ropes to then be pushed down. One guy went down with the ropes, and he was able to rescue the rest of the guys. So this is exactly what happened. There was no rescue that took place at this particular mine, and you can see this information. It's widely available. There are videos of this whole thing happening. So let me now look at who owns the mine, who owns this whole mine, and how did it become under that ownership. So I just have to block myself here a little bit. So don't mind Chamisa's face. I'm just using it as a background while I'm fixing something here. Right. So the mine that we're looking at here, Redwing mine, is owned by Metal and Gold. So Metal and Gold initially owned the mine before it went into rescue. So when these guys ran out of money, there was then an agreement, right, between a consortium, and this consortium was made up of Kodata Gure and a company called Juatlet. So Juatlet, this is the company that partnered Better Brands, which is owned by Scott Sakupanya. And Juatlet, according to my sources, belong to the twins. So that's Jua. Jua, I think, I don't know if these guys are wrong or what, but this is the idea. There was supposed to be a deal between Juatlet, which also include Better Brands, and Better Brands was supposed to pay about $3 million US to Metal and Gold. Then they will obviously start mining. But Scott Sakupanya, with the help of ED, went into the mine and they took up 132 mining claims without the authority of Metal and Gold. This is what information that I got here. And then obviously Scott started to mine on the site. But the mine was closed down in January 2023 because it was not safe. The mine was not safe. It had many issues, including pollution of water with cyanide, which I explained to you. So Emma closed the mine. The mine was not safe, and the guy started to mine at the top, on the top of the so they did the mining, surface mining, and they also did underground mining. So this is what also brings Tagure into the picture. Tagure is part of the owners of this mine, and the Juatlet is also part of this Juatlet, and Freda Rebecca. If you hear about Freda Rebecca, it's also involved in this mine. Tagure owns a company called Landela Holding, and Landela Holding took over Freda Rebecca through Kuvimba Mining. And so what you have here is ED, Tagure, and Scott on the site. These are the guys who own this mine, and they have not paid a cent to the original owners of the company. They have been mining on the site without taking up, without paying, without putting in place any safety measures, without doing anything to improve the mine. So they've basically been extracting from the mine. Other players on these mines, on this mine, as I told you before, I used to have a scholarship here when I was in high school. I had a scholarship in a company called Lonro Zimbabwe. Lonro Zimbabwe used to own this mine, and Lonro ended up leaving this place because of the extreme accidents that were taking place at that mine. The mine was not safe at all. The ground where it is situated is very difficult to maneuver, and there have been many fatalities at the mine. So what you have is ED, Tagure, Scott, and the twins somehow involved in the whole deal, and that is why you saw ED moving closer and closer to that mine yesterday. He is got massive interest in this mine and what happens here. So what has happened now? The community has been very unhappy with what has been happening, and these guys have been operating as artisanal mining. As you saw, Metal and Gold also issued a statement to that effect. So what has happened yesterday is that they have announced that they rescued these guys. And like I said to you, this was not a rescue. These guys crawled out by themselves up to 4 meters. That is when the 4 guys came out, and the 11 guys were then sent a rope. One rescuer went down and took those guys. But everyone crawled out. Everyone was expecting those guys to die, and there was no plan to get them out. That was the situation. So the announcement has been made that mining at that mine has stopped. But don't believe that they've stopped mining at the whole mine. 132 claims. That is what Scott Sakupanya has taken over there. So they'll basically stop operating at that particular spot. But I bet you they're going to continue to operate across the whole mine, because they will not stop trying to get gold. This is how these guys operate. And this is where we have a problem. ED's focus is not right. He's focused on things that don't scale. And you must remember this thing that I always tell you. The problem with ED is no one is making money in the whole country. He makes a little bit of money with gold, with lithium, with this small thing here. But those things don't scale. The things that will scale is to fix the currency, to fix tourism, to fix the service industry, banking, to make sure that there's clean water around the cities, to fix housing, the things that can scale. So that if a tourist is in Victoria Falls, another tourist is in Nyanga, another tourist is in Tari, everyone makes money. But under ED, no one is making money. The only money that ED is chasing are these little mines and little farms. His things don't scale. They don't make sense. And that takes me to Chamisa's tweet. So let's go to Chamisa's tweets. And this is very, very interesting. So Chamisa said, a new great Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe shall soon reclaim its breadbasket status. We will lead differently and excellently. We will feed the whole world. We will make and produce for everyone. Our nation shall be a God nation, a wealthy nation. To achieve this, reforms, strong, professional, independent institution, an accountable, credible, capable state, good governance, peace, unity in diversity, tolerance, healing, and reconciliation upon being a God-honoring nation are the key ingredients. So you can see Chabisa's tweet. Go to X, you'll be able to see his tweet there. Whereas ED's tweet says, yesterday, I took my family to visit the World's Week in Nyanga, toured sites and platforms in the area in line with government's vision in supporting domestic tourism. It is one of the leading tourist attractions in the country. I'm encouraged by the increased number of both local and international tourists visiting our country. Equally, investments in new tourism products and facilities, which board has the sector, are welcome development. So he's got First Lady there. He's got one of the twins, and he's got the Deputy Minister's son over there. So ED, as I said to you, his focus very, very much around his family. This is the problem. This focus of ED is why we've got all these problems that we have in the country. He does not get the bigger picture. He needs to get the bigger picture. This visit to Nyanga was purely a personal assignment. He was basically plotting to go to Redwing mine here, where he's got massive interest. Himself, Tagwire, and Scott Sakumaya. And take me back to what I always told you about the third force. And go back to what I've said about what is the plan going forward. What is ED trying to protect? What is going to happen? And remember that the Chwenga effect is going to come into play here. ED has got less than 1,200 days in office. We are basically counting down the last days of ED, and everything is collapsing around us. The exchange rate, as I said, very, very bad. It crashed this week by 100%. We are back to January 2023 when I was in Zimbabwe, and the exchange crashed in one day by more than 10,000. This has happened again. Nothing is moving in the country. Everyone who goes to Zimbabwe will tell you that prices of goods are extremely high. The cement shortage is hammering the construction sector, a reduction of GDP by more than 6%. Nothing is moving as we speak. And dialogue has not started. Remember, dialogue is the key. If you don't have dialogue, the country will continue down this path. And eventually, everything is going to fall apart. I'm talking about employees of government not being able to be paid. This is coming. Because remember, the revenue is coming in Zimbabwe dollar, and payments is going out in US dollars. This is coming. The crash is coming if ED is not careful within a very, very short space of time. But to recap on this story of Redwing mine, the guys were not rescued. They crawled out. The interested parties in this mine is Kuda Tagwire, ED, the twins, and Scott Sakupkanya. And they still haven't paid the original owners of this mine. There is a disaster. Now that they've closed that portion, what is going to happen to the rest of the 132 claims that are owned by Scott Sakupkanya, which he took over illegally? This is in court. I'm not talking about things that are not in court here. This is a court case that is there. There is a court case regarding Scott Sakupkanya taking over the mines illegally. And this is a court battle that is taking place. But behind the scenes, the godfathers is ED, Tagwire, the twins, and Scott. So let's go into The next story, so we'll be watching this developing story. These guys are not capable of thinking outside their family circle. They need to be able to think outside their family circle. They need a bigger picture, a program, starting at the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. This is what I always say. The disaster in Zimbabwe starts at the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, where they failed to create a sustainable currency. Imagine if you were 1,000 bond last week. Now you have 500 bond. What does that mean? A crash in 1 week of 1,000% or of 100%. Now let's go to the United States of America. The United States of America. This story is all over the internet. If you Google it, or if you go to Google News, you'll find Strive Masiwa's picture with this story. And the United States of America is thinking about how to engage Zimbabwe going forward. I'm going to unpack the whole report once I have it. But there's obviously a need to change how Zimbabwe engages, how the United States engages with Zimbabwe as a strategic relationship. Currently, there's a haphazard approach. And I've said to it, I've spoken to this before, that while the United States had reasons to put sanctions at that time, there is a need now to say, how do we proceed? But it can't be haphazard, and it has to be managed in the sense of the dialogue. Chamisa needs to be in power sharing with Mnangagwa. There is no way this thing is going to work. Everybody is going to suffer if that dialogue doesn't happen. And the United States has come out with a report here. I don't think it's a government report as such, but I think it's one of the former ambassadors of the United States who was in Zimbabwe. He has produced this report. And remember what I said about the Americans. The Americans can see 5 years ahead. About 4 years ago, Noyce produced a report that showed why Chamisa was not going to win the elections in 2023. You remember I went into great depth that time about why Chamisa was not going to win the elections, not because it's not going to win, but they gave the reasons as poor grassroots structure, inability to galvanize his supporters to go up against ED. So these were some of the reasons, and it was clear that when the election was rigged, Chamisa then failed to push ED out through mass action, because either you do mass action or you win the election and then you are given the office. But in Zimbabwe, that was seen already by the Americans that this won't happen. And I shared widely that report by Noyce at the time. These reports are critical for strategy. If you want to understand what's going to happen in Zimbabwe, you must understand strategy. And the strategy here, we're talking about the Americans. The Americans operate on a 4-year cycle, and then the strategies are about 5 years. The Chinese, they operate on a 25-year cycle, and their strategy is 30 years. Do you understand what that means? You cannot fight someone that has got a 30-year strategy. So when you're a Zimbabwean and you look at ED, and I always tell you ED, his strategy is about 1 year. And right now, if you ask him what is NDS, what has happened and where it is, he doesn't even know. The Americans, they at least know about 5 years ahead what is going to happen. And the Chinese, they'll outclass you and outwork you and outwit you for 30 years because their plans are so high, they're so far ahead. This is what we're talking about here. When you look at what is going to happen to Zimbabwe, don't forget that these guys are way ahead of us, and we need a proper government in place. The government of ED is not able to strategically think, and this is the problem. The guys around ED are suffering because they don't have money. No one is making money in Zimbabwe. ED does not have a plan on how to make people make money. And I challenge anyone to come here and explain to me who has made money under ED, what improvements have happened. Why can they fail to not put money in the ATM? Have you ever thought about that? These are some of the reasons why things are happening. And I'm going to give you another story here. Magaya. Magaya has stolen 3 million from the Israelis. And ED was at his visit. He visited him recently. Obviously, he's got interest there. The Chinese They've now taken Magaya to court for 1 million. He also flees the Chinese of 1 million. So everything that these guys are doing is so small and it's not scalable. That is the problem. And they need someone in office who is like Chamisa as part of a power sharing arrangement, because they cannot now change what they're doing. You cannot expect ED to change the way he works with Tagure, with Scott, with the Magaya, with the twins. He is set in his ways. Who in his parliament or in his cabinet or a set of ministers have you seen doing anything that makes sense? We have sat here week in, week out. I've been talking here about what's wrong with government, state-owned enterprises, everything. Have you ever seen any change taking place? Things like NASA, all these things are not going to be fixed because ED does not have that big picture view of the government and where we need to go. That is the problem. Now let's go to the last story. That is a sports story. Callisto Pasua done very, very well in Malawi. 3 championships. I think that he won. And Zimbabwe Warriors are going to be in Malta to visit and play a friendly match between 18 March and 26 March. That is the sports stories. And then obviously in entertainment story, if you go to H Metro newspaper, you are going to see that there is another cheating story. Harare this time. A man is complaining about a workmate stealing his wife. It's right at the front page. You can go and have a look at it. This time is the Harare guys obviously working at the toll gates in Irua there. There is a story there if you want to have a look. Now let's recap what we said. Mnangagwa mysteriously visiting 130 kilometers away from the mine at Redwing, where there was a mining disaster, where he's got massive interests. Himself, Tagwere, Scott Sakukanya, and the twins through their duatlet here consortium. And the mine has been shut down for now, but only one out of the 132 claims, Metallion Gold, still not paid for that mine, and the court case still raging. Then we have the issue of the Americans. They are working on a strategy on Zimbabwe. I'm going to give you more details when I get the actual document. And the exchange rate of Zimbabwe has crashed by 100% on the black market to around 1:13,000. It's a disaster. And ED has still not declared a state of emergency for the cholera outbreak. 15,000 people dead. 5,000 people infected. Sorry, 15,000 people infected. 5,000 people in Harare and 300 people dead of cholera. A country like Zimbabwe. So this is it. This is what I wanted to say. The only place that is making sense right now in Zimbabwe is the Victoria Falls. The Victoria Falls is the remaining part of Zimbabwe. That is still making sense. People are just flying into Victoria Falls and they fly out. Imagine if we could fix the whole country, how much opportunity is there in the country. But ED will never do it. He's not capable of doing that because he's very, very limited in how he thinks about what needs to happen in the country. So let's go to the comments and then we'll wrap this up. I want to start with the bottom. Obviously, I start with the bottom. Mkoma Shumba say you're obsessed with negativity and you are a failure, desperate to prop up Chamisa. Urimbwa. Lirimbwa. Do you hear that? I think you should make a rap out of that. Mkoma Shumba. Prop up Chamisa. Chamisa cannot be propped. He's up already. You see, let me explain to you the thing about Chamisa. Chamisa is going to be there in the future. ED is gone. Less than 4 years, ED is gone. If you are a person in ZANU-PF and you're still supporting ED, in 4 years, who are you going to support? Think deeper. Where you are right now, ED does not have a plan for you. He's got a plan for his pension. You see? So you need to think harder. Who are you supporting? When you're supporting ED, what are you doing? This is the question that I always ask people. MS, there would never be a power sharing government in Zimbabwe. I can bet a lot of money with you that Zimbabwe. Mkoma MS, let me explain to you. The power sharing is not for Chamisa, it's for ED. If these guys don't fix this power sharing, the government will collapse. And watch, I'll be sitting right here talking about this very, very thing. Right, you're free to do it without Zara Chamisa. This is Robert True. Chamisa is a very, very peaceful man. Come back with this verified news. Why do I feel like I'm drinking from a poison child? Yes, it's verified. Go and Google the court cases. There's a court case between Sakupanya, Tagwirei, Metal Gold, Fred and Rebecca, all these players that are there. There's a court case about Scott Sakupanya taking all these mines without paying 132 claims. It's in court, and that's more verified than you can ever know. And then what will Zimbabwe do after all the gold is gone and politicians left? True, the issue of gold in Zimbabwe needs to be regulated. The problem with gold is the worst and most manipulated market in the world. I do a lot of trading, as you know. Gold, stay away from it. It's evil. It's evil even on trading platforms. It's so manipulated. This is where the bad guys go. When they want to deal with anything, they go to gold. Money laundering, all these kind of things that they do. The problem with ED, he's got so much opportunity in Zimbabwe. All he needs to do is fix the currency. Fix everything else. And then things will work. Things are not working. And that is the problem. Don't you have connection with the army? Do you do something, guys? I don't know, guys. I don't know if removing Mnangagwa or the army is the best idea. Because the army guys, I always tell you, once they get in, they don't get out. Army guys, they only know one thing. If you argue with them, it only ends one way. One way, and there's no other way. So don't ask for it. So I think this is the comments for today. And I think I'm really appreciative of the guys who managed to crawl out. Very, very strong guys. There was no rescue here. These guys got out by themselves. And something obviously needs to be done in that mine. Manasquat, they need to put a bit more money, because I know they won't stop. So they need to put a bit more money in safety, fix those offices, fix those roads, fix those schools. There was a nice soccer team there at Redwing. Fix everything. Make that thing a beauty. If it's not possible, take all that land and develop a golf estate on there. Shut down all the mining. Develop a golf estate. You make so much money from the houses there. There's no land in Mutare for housing. And put a little airport there. Make it nice. This is all possible. But I know they won't think about it that way. They only think about digging gold and taking it to Dubai. So I think we're done here. This has been a great weekend. Unfortunately, I was not able to get the tenders yesterday. The Sunday mail is not out. I was not able to get it. So as soon as I get it, I'll get you guys the tenders. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and a good day to you.